You're tuned in to Dynamics Talk, hosted by the one and only Dion Taylor.
Hey guys, Dion Taylor here. Now, wouldn't it be great if your custom Copilot or your custom agent can do more than just answer questions? How great would it be if we could actually give it access to the knowledge articles that live inside of Dynamics 365 Customer Service and Contact Center? Well, guess what? We can do that. There is actually a Power Automate flow that's already been built that we can utilize for this. I'm going to show you exactly how it works and how you can configure that. Let's take a look. So I'm going to show you a quick demo on what this looks like once you have all of this configured. I have configured the Power Automate flow to look at my knowledge articles inside of Dynamics 365. And you can also see here that I have a laptop charging issue knowledge article that is published. It's not internal. And here we can see the content of that. And I also have an article on how to resolve a blue screen error on Windows 11, which is also published and not internal. So once we start to interact with this agent, let's take a look at how that works, right? I'm going to say I need help with my laptop. It's not holding a charge. It's going to go through my knowledge sources. It's going to try to find that information. And if it doesn't, look at what it now offers me up. It's actually saying, here is a knowledge article that I found, and then it's showing me the entire knowledge article. Now I can also say, okay, well, this is great, but I also have an issue. There you go, where a blue screen comes up. Let's see what it does now. Again, it goes through all of those steps, and then it's going to now, as you can see, find that second article, and that is now what it's showing here in that chat. So now let's take a look at how we can configure that. So as I mentioned, the Power Automate flow that we are going to configure, well, we're actually not going to configure the flow. We're just going to set the right connections on the connection references. But this Power Automate flow is already part of the environment. And all you have to do is, like I said, replace the connections in those references, then turn on the flow, and then we're going to add it to either a custom agent in Copilot Studio, right? Or one you've already built, however you want to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to make.powerautomate.com, and we're going to open the default solution. So I'm going to go ahead and search for the default solution. This is going to load, as you can see, and then we're going to filter on cloud flows, and then we're going to look for the Search Dynamics 365 knowledge article flow, as you can see over here. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And what you'll see in a second here is that, right, you see this red exclamation point next to those connections. So what we need to do is we need to, again, right, set correct connections for these connection references. And we can do that by, first of all, getting the name. And you can see here, this guy is MSDYN Dataverse, and the other one is MSDYN_content conversion. So the first thing that I would recommend is make sure that you write that down so that we can look for those connection references and then set the correct connections on them. All right, so once we've written down the names, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to that default solution. I'm going to click here on done, and I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. And what I want to do now is I'm going to search on their object for connection references, because we want to find those connection references. And I cannot spell, so give me a second. There we go. And here are our connection references. Now you're going to see that we have a lot in here, 38. So this is why I wanted you to copy that name. And the first one is MSDYN Dataverse, right? So that's this particular guy. You saw that exclamation mark, exclamation point, whatever it's called. And what we need to do is we need to replace that connection or add a connection, because a lot of times there's not even a connection in there. And you saw I did that. Let me do that again by clicking on these three dots here and then clicking on edit. And as you can see, there is no connection related to this connection reference. This is why we saw that error. So what we can do here is we can either pick an existing one or we can create a new connection. And normally, right, you wouldn't create a new one if you have one in there that's already working. But let me just show you real quick how you can create a new connection. You can just go ahead and click on that. That will open this new window, the connections window. And we wanted to create one for Dataverse, right? So you would just go over here. And this is going to then, right, you set your authentication type and then you click create. And then what you can do is you can just navigate back to where you were earlier. Oops, that's not the page. Here we are. And then you can just click refresh and that will then show that connection. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and pick the one that's already in here. And then I'm going to be able to click on save. And here it's going to say, do you want to save those changes? And obviously I'm going to say, yes, I want to do that. So I'm going to click Save Changes. That's just going to take a second here. And now we're going to do the second one, which is the MSDYN content conversion. I'm going to go ahead and click on search and just add my search in there. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click Edit. Here you can see I have none, so I need to put in that new connection. And again, this is content conversion, right? So you probably want to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to click plus, and this is going to allow me to add one. Here we go. Here's the content conversion. Again, I'm going to go ahead and say create. And here you can see that it's been connected. And I can now go back to where I was earlier. I can hit refresh and here is my new connection, and I can do the same thing. I can just click on this. I can click save and I can click on save changes. And that's all you have to do when it comes to those connection references. So let's go back to that flow. And here we are. And if we now hit F5 and do a quick refresh, and now that the screen is refreshed, we can now see there's 2 check marks next to those connection references. So this is now looking good. So the only thing we now have to do is turn on this Power Automate flow, and then we're going to go ahead and add this to our Copilot. Okay, so we can see that our flow has been enabled. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add this either to a new agent, but we can also configure an existing one. So let's just navigate back here now to copilotstudio.microsoft.com. And obviously you want to make sure you're in the correct environment, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to create a new agent so you can see the entire process here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click here on create, and I'm going to say new agent. And you can see here that you can start to type your message, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go through all those steps. I'm just going to create a new agent. So I'm going to click skip to configure. But what I did want to mention is if you click here on edit advanced settings, you can actually select the solution where you want this agent to live, right? I'm not going to do anything because I'm just going to leave the settings as is. And I'm going to click here on skip to configure. I'm going to call this knowledge agents. I'm not going to put anything else in there, no description, instructions, or any of that. And I'm going to go ahead and click on create. Now, there's a couple of things that I want you to be aware of what I've done here, or what I'm going to do here is this is actually an agent that is going to be available on my website. And I want anybody, any customers, non-customers, to be able to interact with this agent. And not have to log in, right? Because not everybody will have credentials here. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to click here on settings, and then I'm going to go here to security, and I'm going to turn off authentication because, again, I want anybody to be able to interact with my agent. So you're going to get here, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I want to do that. Again, I want everybody to be able to interact with this agent and ask questions. Now, the other thing I'm going to disable here is this orchestration. I'm just going to use classical orchestration here. I'm going to leave all of this the way it is. I'm going to save this. And then lastly, once this has been saved, I'm going to close out of this. Oh, we can't leave yet. It's still saving. Let's give it a second. Okay, my changes have saved. Now we can close out of this. And I also don't want it to use its own knowledge. So we're going to go here to topics. And I'm going to go here to my conversational boosting topic. And when you click here on data sources, you can see here that by default, it will allow the AI to use its own general knowledge. I don't want it to do that because then it's going to come up with its own response if I'm asking questions about my laptop, right? So I don't want that to happen. So that's all I'm going to do right now. The next thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a topic by using that flow for which we just configured those connections, right? Obviously, I could also just go here into topics and into system, and I can go to fallback and then call the flow from within here. But if you want to use that Search Dynamics 365 knowledge article flow in different spaces, not just the fallback, but maybe in another place as well, then it would be easier to just call that new topic, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and create a new topic. So I'm going to click here on Add Topic, and I'm going to create a topic from blank. And I'm not going to enter a trigger phrase here because this topic will actually be called from another topic. And I'm actually going to call this knowledge-based topic. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to set a variable, and I'm going to show you why I'm going to set that variable, because when you look at that Power Automate flow that we looked at earlier, you will see that we actually have the ability to set a filter for the knowledge articles that we want to be returned using that flow. So let me show you that real quick. So here is that Search Dynamics 365 knowledge article flow. And if I click on edit, you'll notice that we really do not have the option to modify this flow. If you wanted to modify this flow, what you could do is make a copy of this, right? And then use that. But I'm using this one for this particular video. So if I click here on Power Virtual Agents, you notice that there is a filter here. So that's why I'm actually configuring my topic to pre-populate values for that filter. Okay, so let's go back here now to that topic that we just created. So again, I'm not going to enter a trigger, but what I am going to do is I'm going to create a new variable and set that value. So I'm going to click here on set a variable value, and then select a variable. We're going to create a new one, right? So I'm going to hit here, create new, and I'm not going to call that var1. That's the name of the variable. I'm going to call it filter. So it's very clear the type of data that we're going to be storing in here, right? So here is our filter. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to filter these knowledge records to only show knowledge where the article status is published or status reason, and the is internal flag, that is a column in the knowledge article table is set to false, right? So that's what I'm going to do. As you can see over here, state code equals 3 and is internal equals false. Now, if you want to do some additional filtering, you can definitely do that as well. If you have custom fields on that table, you can use them as well to filter out the knowledge base articles or the knowledge articles that are going to be returned using that Power Automate flow. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to now add that action. I'm going to go click here, add a tool. And as you can see over here, it's right here now, Search Dynamics 365 Knowledge Article Flow. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what you'll notice here now is that we need to enter the search text and that filter, right? I just showed you that in that Power Automate flow, that first section that you saw. So for search text, I'm going to look for something that is called activity.text. That is that message that the bot will receive, right? So I'm going to say activity.text, and that will be under system variables. I'm not typing this correctly. So let me just go ahead and try this again if I can. There we go. Oops. Let me try this again. There you go. This is the one that I want to use for that search text. And obviously my filter is going to be this guy that we just set up, right? So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to select filter. Then the outputs are going to be whatever articles it found. We're going to have JSON results, text results, that's what we want, and then an article count as well. Now, since we're going to use this particular topic in a way where it's being called by another topic, there's one more thing that we need to do. If you click here on text result, I want to be able to return the value of that text result to the topic that is calling this topic. So therefore, I'm going to say return values to the original topics that call this topic. And I want to do the same thing with article count as well, because I want to have a rule in place, right, that does something based on the article count. Obviously, I can enter that in here as well, but I can also configure that in another topic. So you can say, hey, return those values to the original topics as well. Again, what I'm referring to is like, what if we are not getting any data back, right? What if the Power Automate flow did not find any articles? What do we want to do then? And obviously I could configure that here, but I can also configure that in whatever topic is calling it. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And the next thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my fallback topic, and that's where I want to redirect to this knowledge base topic. So I'm going to go here to topics, and I'm going to click here on fallback. And as you can see, this topic will be triggered on unknown intent. So if somebody enters something here for that agent and it doesn't understand what it's trying to accomplish, it cannot find an answer in knowledge or tools, right? It's going to go here to this fallback topic. As you can see here, what's going to happen is that if the fallback count is less than 3, it's going to say, show this message, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to help you with that. Can you please try to rephrase? And if it's more than 3, so if it actually launched this fallback topic more than 3 times or 3 times already, then it's going to go and escalate, right? And most likely connect to a live customer service rep. So what we're going to do, instead of showing that message, I'm sorry, I don't know how to help you with that, I'm actually going to redirect this topic to that knowledge base topic that we just generated. So I'm going to go ahead in here and click add node, and I'm going to go to topic management, and I say here, go to another topic, go to my knowledge base topic. And then here you can see those return values, right? The article count and the text results. So what I want to do here is I want to have a condition that if it doesn't find any articles, I want it to do something else. So I'm going to put in a condition here where I'm going to say if the article count, right, from that output of that Power Automate flow is less than 1, so it doesn't find anything, then what's going to happen? Then it's going to say, I'm sorry, I don't know how to help you with that. So I'm going to cut this little message over here and I'm going to paste it over here. There you go. So if it doesn't find any articles, it's less than 1, it's going to go ahead and say, I'm sorry, I don't know how to help you with that. If it does find an article, I actually want to send a message, right? To say, hey, this is the article that I found. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to say, send a message. Oops. Let me just try and copy that over so I don't have to manually type that in. I'm going to say, here's a knowledge article I found. I'm going to hit Control, Enter, Enter. So I have a space here. And then I want to put that text result in here. Now, obviously, instead of using article count, I could have also said if the text result is blank or something like that, right? But I wanted to show you this as well. So I'm now going to grab that variable showing that text result, and that's the knowledge article that will now be visible here. And then the last thing you want to do here is you want to end this conversation. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to topic management, and I'm going to say end conversation after, right, that knowledge article has been submitted. Now, I already showed you how, let me first go ahead and save that. I already showed you a short demo in the beginning before actually I built this topic. So now let's go ahead and let me show you how this works, right, after we also built in the conditions here if there's no articles. So let's just go ahead and retest this. And I'm going to say something similar. I'm going to say, I need help. My laptop does not charge. And let's see what it's doing now. So we can see here that it was referred to my knowledge base topic. There you go. It now comes back here to see if it actually had a result, right? Did it actually find an article? And now it says, here's the knowledge article that I found. And look at that. That looks good, right? That is the content of that knowledge article. Now let's take a look at what it does if we're asking something that it doesn't have the answer to. So I'm going to say, what is the meaning of life? Let's see if it gives me an explanation of that. And now we can see, again, it will now see that it did not find an article. Article count is less than 1. So it's saying now, I'm not sure how to help you with that. Can you please try rephrasing? So what do you guys think? This is really going to help our deflection rates even more, right? Because if the agent can now access the knowledge articles and give that information to your customers through the chat, that's really going to save the pressure or keep the pressure off of our customer service reps. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss another video again. Thanks for watching. Until next time.